was like, where is the mic? Where is the mic? At one point she yelled, give me a mic, and they didn't give it to her. And there's this guy with the purple jacket is trying to block her from going on stage. She goes around him, she even ignores him. She ignores the guy.
Prince Harry stood at the podium, his posture straight and his tone measured, carefully delivering the kind of speech that had been rehearsed countless times. The audience was hushed, respectful, and focused entirely on him. But then, without warning, Meghan Markle entered the scene. She walked straight past the event staff, who had been tasked with keeping her off stage. Her stride bold, her presence demanding. It was the kind of move that once would have been celebrated as daring confidence. But this time, it landed differently. The crowd didn't erupt in admiration. Instead, the room froze. All eyes shifted between Harry and Meghan, and within seconds, the tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Meghan reached out, brushing Harry's back in a gesture everyone recognized. Her way of signaling she wanted the microphone. And yet, for the first time in years, Harry didn't give in. His grip tightened, his shoulders stiffened, and his voice grew firmer as he continued speaking, leaving Meghan standing awkwardly at his side. It was subtle, almost imperceptible unless you were watching closely, but it was unmistakable. Harry had drawn a line. For years, their public appearances had followed the same script, Harry stepping back so Meghan could shine. This time, that script was torn apart in front of hundreds of witnesses. Meghan's smile remained fixed, her hand lingering just long enough to send the message she wasn't ready to retreat, but Harry didn't budge. The silence in the room was chilling. No applause, no laughter, no polite clapping, just a heavy pause that spoke louder than words. Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. Finally, Meghan turned, retreating slowly back toward the sidelines. The walk might have been short, but the weight of it was monumental. For the first time, she had been denied the spotlight in front of an audience, and everyone saw it. Observers whispered later that Harry's small act of defiance carried more meaning than any speech could. This wasn't just about a microphone, it was about control, balance, and perhaps even rebellion. Meghan had always been the driving force in their public narrative, but here was Harry reclaiming a moment for himself, and the crowd sensed it. The indifference they gave Meghan wasn't just cold, it was devastating. Royals have endured boos before, even jeers, but silence, that was far worse. Silence was rejection, without the dignity of confrontation. The cameras captured it all, though official outlets quickly polished the footage, cutting out the awkward exchange and replacing it with glossy stills showing the couple side by side, perfectly in sync. To casual viewers, nothing unusual had happened, but social media told another story. Uncut clips of Meghan's interruption, Harry's refusal, and the crowd's silence spread online within hours, racking up millions of views. The contrast was stark. On television, the Sussexes looked united, the perfect pair. On social platforms, they looked fractured, caught in an unspoken battle. Critics accused mainstream outlets of protecting Meghan, shielding her from what could have been a public relations disaster. Supporters, meanwhile, argued the moment was exaggerated, a misread of body language. But the fact remained, the truth was split in two. And the deeper people looked, the clearer it became that this was more than an awkward moment. It was a glimpse into the reality behind the polished photos. The tension didn't end when Meghan stepped down from the stage. According to insiders, the fallout was immediate. Event organizers, eager to prevent a repeat, quietly ensured she didn't return to the spotlight that evening. Instead of being seated front and center as usual, Meghan was guided to a side seat, still visible but no longer leading. To many, the message was clear. She had been sidelined. The optics only made it worse. Her designer gown, chosen to dazzle, looked oddly out of place under the harsh lights. Her smile appeared tight, her posture rigid, and the enthusiasm that once drew applause seemed to have evaporated. Harry mingled freely with guests, shaking hands and exchanging polite laughs, while Meghan clapped at the appropriate moments but found herself largely ignored. For someone accustomed to commanding the stage, the indifference must have stung deeply. The public humiliation wasn't the only blow. Within hours, newspapers began running contradictory headlines. Some painted Harry as a respected prince, treated with deference and honor as if nothing had changed. Others insisted he was merely a figure stripped of titles, existing in a strange limbo between royal insider and outsider. This deliberate inconsistency wasn't sloppy reporting, it was strategy. By keeping Harry's role ambiguous, The palace ensured constant speculation. Every appearance became a guessing game. Would he be introduced with formality or dismissed as irrelevant? That uncertainty guaranteed headlines, ensuring Harry and Meghan remained part of the conversation whether they liked it or not. Meghan's polarizing image only fueled the fire. Each misstep became amplified. Every awkward smile turned into a narrative of downfall. Insiders suggest this ambiguity is no accident. Buckingham Palace has long used such tactics to maintain control, and Harry's limbo status keeps the Sussexes dangling just close enough to remain relevant, but far enough to be denied real influence. Meghan's presence in particular adds complexity. She generates clicks, headlines, and debates, but every stumble is magnified into scandal. For her, this blurred role is a nightmare. For Harry, it's a prison, trapping him between the world he left and the family he still longs to connect with. And if that weren't enough, behind closed doors, even more serious disagreements have reportedly been brewing. Sources claim Harry desperately wants his children to experience parts of the tradition he grew up with. He has spoken about the idea of Archie attending Eton, the elite school that educated generations of royals, imagining his son walking the same halls he once did. To Harry, it isn't just education, it's heritage, a connection to the life he left behind but still values. Meghan, however, has no interest in returning to the UK. She reportedly prefers raising their children in California, far from the rigid expectations of royal life. The divide doesn't stop there. Meghan has allegedly resisted even discussing British schooling unless major concessions are made, from security to finances. Some insiders interpret this not as negotiation but as leverage. Friends close to the couple describe Harry as increasingly frustrated, longing for ties to his past while feeling cornered by Meghan's refusal to compromise. Their children, in many ways, have become symbols of the larger struggle: tradition versus independence, loyalty versus defiance. While Harry is drawn to the legacy of his family, Meghan seems determined to forge a separate path, one far from the monarchy's reach. This tug of war has left their marriage under a microscope. The stage incident, small as it seemed, suddenly feels like part of a much bigger picture. What unfolded wasn't just about a speech, it revealed cracks in their carefully curated image. Harry's refusal to hand over the microphone hinted at a deeper power shift, one that Meghan wasn't prepared for. For years, the narrative painted Harry as the man willing to sacrifice everything for Meghan, stepping aside again and again to let her shine. That single moment suggested something new: resistance. And once the world saw it, there was no unseeing it. In the hours and days that followed, debate raged online. Was Harry finally pushing back against Meghan's dominance? Was the silence of the crowd a reflection of shifting public sentiment? Or was it simply an awkward miscommunication exaggerated by speculation? Regardless of the interpretation, one thing was undeniable: the dynamic between Harry and Meghan no longer looked as solid as it once did. The polished facade had slipped, and the world had caught a glimpse of what lay beneath. The longer this plays out, the clearer it becomes that their story isn't just about love or independence. It's about survival in a world that thrives on spectacle. Meghan's bold entrance onto that stage was meant to be another commanding moment. Instead, it became a revelation. The silence, Harry's firm stance, the media's attempt to bury the truth, all of it exposed a fracture that can't easily be hidden. And if this is how raw and intense things look in front of cameras, one can only imagine what battles are unfolding away from the spotlight. What started as a routine speech has now been immortalized as a turning point. The Sussexes may still project unity in photos, but the whispers tell another story. A couple caught between tradition and rebellion, power and compromise, spotlight and shadow. That stage clash was more than a snub. It was a symbol of a changing tide, and the ripple effects are only just beginning. And yet, as dramatic as the stage moment was, the real fallout may be even more telling. In the days that followed, royal watchers pointed out how Meghan's usual circle of supporters in the media seemed unusually quiet. Outlets that often praised her boldness offered little coverage of the incident, almost as if they were waiting to see which way public opinion would turn before committing to a narrative. That hesitation spoke volumes. It hinted that even Meghan's most loyal defenders recognized the optics were unfavorable and that any attempt to spin it could backfire. Meanwhile, palace insiders reportedly saw the incident as a vindication of their long-held concerns. For years, They worried that Meghan's tendency to overshadow Harry would create tension both privately and publicly. The microphone refusal was interpreted not only as Harry reclaiming space for himself, but also as proof that he could no longer ignore the growing imbalance. To those close to the institution, it wasn't just a personal disagreement, it was a symbolic moment that revealed the fragile state of the Sussexes' partnership in front of the world. Perhaps most importantly, the silence of that crowd will linger as a reminder of shifting loyalties. Public opinion, once swayed heavily in Meghan's favor, now seems less certain, less forgiving. What once drew applause now meets indifference. And for a couple whose influence depends on the strength of their image, that silence may be the most damaging sound of all.